Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the morning show right here on Wire to Wire Sports. I am a host for today. My name is William Morgan, and I have my partner in crime, my brother from another mother, my man Mo Better. Mo, what's going on this morning?
Hey, good morning, Will. Good morning, everybody out there listening.
How y'all doing? I hope everyone's having a great morning. We got a lot to talk about, guys. A lot to talk about. I'm gonna go ahead and start off with the biggest news of the weekend. Mo, you got to explain this to me, Mo. You got to explain this to me. This Anthony Davis and Luca trade. Can you explain that to me? Because I'm to the point where I don't get it. I don't understand why you would trade a 25-year-old in his prime. Say what you want to about his conditioning, that's fine. But if you're gonna hold him accountable for that, I got you. But why would you make this deal?
You know that old saying, Will, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense.
Yeah.
Well, this trade is a lot about dollars. The new ownership group, they didn't want to go anywhere near the second apron. They didn't want to pay Luka the 345. They didn't want to do that. And I'm with you on his talent and what he is, and that he's 25.
Yep.
And it's fair to make assertions or question the conditioning. But what I would point out to them, or at least push back on, is he could be better conditioned, but that guy that could be better conditioned just took you to the finals.
Yep.
In whatever condition he was in, he took you to the finals.
He did.
And I think that kind of it's short-sighted thinking, but this is about money. This is about money. There, a lot of people are going at Nico Harrison, and rightly so. But remember, Nico Harrison is the GM. He has the full support of the ownership group. Like,
he does.
It's not like they were like, Nico, what are you doing? This is crazy. Like, I'm sure Jason Kidd said that, but the ownership group was like, look, we're thinking about money. And in the end, they would rather pay Anthony Davis, because Anthony Davis on the contract he's on is owed $174 million. They would rather pay a 31-year-old Anthony Davis the $174 million than Luka a 5-year $345 million. And they and look, I think they were looking to move Luka anyway, because remember, there are reports they reached out to the Bucks. They were trying to see if they could get Giannis for Luka. And of course the Bucks were like, yeah, the number you have reached, we're not doing that. But I think that's a lot of it. And it blows most of the NBA world's mind, because you know what Luka is. You know what he can do, and then you're thinking he is 25. And it's mind-boggling. And don't get me wrong, I don't want anybody to know who's listening go, Mo's trying to downgrade Anthony Davis' value. Not in the least. AD is an all NBA performer. I think he's a top 10 player in the NBA.
Very much so.
But
when healthy.
When healthy, Luka's like a top 3 player in the NBA.
Yeah.
And I just think for the Mavs, it really literally came down to money. This stuff about, well, he weighed this or he weighed that. He had problem with his conditions forever, and you loved him. He just took you to the finals. This is not about his attitude or how much he loved it. Clearly, when you saw the press conference, Will, you could tell he's still stunned. Mm-hmm. He's still hurt. He did not expect to be traded. I think Luka starts every season thinking there's an untouchable list, and I'm on the untouchable list. I think everybody thought that. And then out of nowhere, he's a Laker. So from the Dallas side, I get the PR they're doing, because the PR is, one, they're going negative. They're talking about, well, he wasn't committed to his body and conditioning. And then on the positive, they're talking about, well, with Anthony Davis, he builds culture. He's part of what we're trying to build. And AD is a two-way player versus Luka clearly not really being effective defensively. Does AD in the short term make them a contender in the West? Sure. I actually do believe that. He makes them a contender in the West. But are the results going to be better than what you had with Luka? That remains to be seen. With Luka, you went to a finals. Yes. I don't know with AD as your, like, and I'm again, great player, But I don't know if with AD as your centerpiece, you're going to the finals.
Let me ask you this: from the standpoint of the Dallas Mavericks, what does AD bring to them that can make them a threat per se? Because I still think OKC's a better team, a little bit deeper than the Mavericks. But what does AD bring to the Mavericks that they didn't have on the previous roster?
Well, look, let's start with, because a lot of people are talking about what Luka does in terms of how he creates opportunities for his teammates because he gets double teamed. This is true, but Anthony Davis, in a different way, the way he does it, is going to create double team. There's a short list of people that can guard Anthony Davis. What he does do is, as great as Luka is, oftentimes, and you watch Luka, the ball sticks with him a lot, right?
Yes.
The other, oftentimes, the other teammates can be found just kind of watching Luka do Luka things. With AD, the ball's not going to stick. He's a big, so even if he can play on the perimeter, the ball has to be brought to him. I think more people will touch the ball. I think the offense that won't change. The offense will flow. But what he gives them even more so is he gives them a defensive presence. Even if he's not playing center, if he's playing power forward, he's going to give them an amazing weak side defender who's going to come over and clean things up. He also gives you more rebounding. So you think about their front line of Lively, Gafford, and now AD. They're all big and athletic. And I think the Mavs they're a well-balanced team, and they are built to win now. So I don't want to just brush aside the trade.
Right.
Because when you just go player for player, I get the complaints and I understand. Mavs fans feeling the way they do. But Anthony Davis is going to have you as a title contender. The only question is, during the Anthony Davis run here, will you get a title? Will you get to a finals? Because I'll say this: if Nico Harrison wants to be proven a genius in the Anthony Davis run, and I think you've got prime Anthony Davis for another 3 years. If you win one title, then it's worth it, and you were proven right. Because the argument that the other side of the argument is Luka's 25, right? But he can be 25 now, and 5 years from now he can be 30 and had not won anything. You feel me? Right? Yep. If AD wins a title, Nico Harrison was right in what he did. So and again, I still think it's about money. I still think it's all about money. But if you're going to put some kind of shine to this, Anthony Davis is an all-NBA player, an all-NBA two-way player who will help you. I think right now they're one of the 3 best teams in the Western Conference, minus Luka, because they got AD.
Real quick, let me say what's up to my brothers we got in the chat. My man Gene, what's up, bro? How you doing? Also got my man Brett in the chat. Brett, what's going on, bro? Good to have you guys here with us. We appreciate you coming through on the chat. Let me ask you this, Mo. I still think they didn't. Do you think Dallas got enough in this trade?
No. Yeah. So you could sell the trade, but it would have been easier to sell had you gotten what you should have gotten. Like, they should have got back AD. They should have got back Austin Reeves, another pick. Like, they should have got more. And that's even more mind-boggling, right? If you're a Mavs fan, had they got back a haul for Luka, I think that would have eased their pain.
Yeah.
Clearly, for his value and what he is, I don't think they get equal value in return because, again, just like we talk about how he's 25, AD's 31.
Yep.
And even though he's been relatively healthy, he's 31 with an injury history. So, what if in the 3 years that you have an AD's window, AD's, playing 50 games a year? You know what I mean? Like, that's a high possibility. They should have got a haul back. We are just not far removed from Rudy Gobert being traded for 4 number 1 picks.
Exactly.
It wasn't that long ago.
Yep.
And
exactly.
Every time I say this, it sounds like I'm not killing Rudy Gobert. I'm just talking about his value as opposed to Anthony Davis' value. Anthony Davis is more valuable because he's clearly a better basketball player. Nico Harrison failed in terms, if you're going to move a franchise player, Nico Harrison failed.
And you failed one part. He was also beloved in that city.
Beloved. Look, there's still Mavs fans every day since this trade. You can see them on social media expressing their displeasure. Yes, he was beloved. And I believe Luca loved the city as well. He had
Yep.
the man, like I said, the man was putting down roots. He wasn't planning on going anywhere.
Nope.
This came out of nowhere for him. And you can tell Luca was surprised, but Jason Kidd was surprised as well. The press conference they had with Nico Harrison talking about this is all on me. Jay Kidd kind of gave him that look like, yeah, it's on you. It's 100% on you. This is the kind of trade that's going to reverberate for the next 10 years. And I honestly think if the Mavs don't go on a deep playoff run this year, I don't think you have to win it this year in the AD era, but let's say they get knocked out in the first or second round. I'm not sure Nico Harrison doesn't get fired.
Well, can you still hear me?
Yeah, I hear you great.
Okay, I'm having some issues with my webcam. As I try to get these issues fixed here. Give me just a moment. Let me see if I can do it now.
But I think that's what it comes down to. And I looked at the trade this way. In the short term, I'm talking about in the now, the Mavs have won the trade because the Mavs are built to compete for a title right now. But the Lakers won in the bigger picture because they just acquired their franchise player for the next 10 years.
Yes, they did. They really did.
And everything they do after this, every move they make after this, I know they're like, it's for Luka and LeBron. It's for Luka. It's for Luka because Luka's going to be extension eligible next offseason. And the Lakers would be wise to do everything in their power to show him we're committed to you. We're going to build around you. Because they can offer him a big extension, but they're not going to offer him. They can't offer him what the Mavs could have offered him. Like basically what the Lakers can offer him is going to be still over $115 million short of what the Mavs could offer. That I know that sounds crazy, but that somebody telling you you're going to take $115 million cut in your wallet, that's a tough cut.
Yeah,
not to mention those California state taxes and federal. It's brutal.
You can't give him even if he wanted the max as a Laker, you can't give him the max contract now.
They can't, but I was talking about in the offseason, even what they can offer him in the offseason for an extension, it's not even it won't live up to what the Mavs can. And I think that's something that Rob Pelinka's got to be working on like right now. Everything he does, he's got to juggle the present and he's got to juggle what he's going to do for the Lakers in the future as well. And it's all built around Luka.
All right. I'm still dealing with my webcam here.
You good?
They had a second trade that went down yesterday. I didn't get this one. I didn't get this one either. I didn't understand it. They traded Quentin Grimes and a 2025 second round pick to the Sixers for Caleb Martin. Yeah, I guess you could say Caleb Martin is Luka's replacement.
The interesting thing is, I think Caleb Martin's a good player, but I don't think he's better than Quentin Grimes.
No.
I think they have similar skill sets, and I think Quentin Grimes is more athletic, and
yes.
I'm sure he's younger. So I don't get that. I don't get that trade because there's no way you can tell me that Martin is a better player than Quentin Grimes because he's not. So I don't really get that one. I'm not saying it's a bad trade, but that's more like a sideways move. It's not an upgrade.
It's like you get a younger player in Quentin Grimes to be Tyrese Maxey's backup with the 76ers. Dang it. And it's like, I just didn't get that. But we'll see how it all turns out. I know the GM for Dallas was saying defense wins championships.
Right.
And to a point, I get that, but come on, man.
Look, there's truth in those words, but that's him trying to convince the media that, just because Luka can get you 35 or 40 on a given night with 10 rebounds and 10 assists, yes, defense does matter. It does. I'm not disagreeing with that, But basketball is simple. It's who can get stops, but it's also more importantly, what about in the game where nobody can get stops? Is who can get buckets when nobody else can get buckets, and Luke is one of those guys.
Exactly.
And you don't usually trade guys that can break a mold. And I don't know, when you look at it on the court, it's going to be interesting because Brett brought up how you would blitz Kyrie and make somebody else be a playmaker. It'll be interesting to see. Look, I don't think Kyrie's a true point guard. I don't think he's ever been a true point guard. He has the ability to facilitate, but it's not his nature. His nature is score first. So I think you'll see the ball in Dinwiddie's hands. I think you'll see the ball in a variety of players' hands. But when Kyrie has the ball, I think Kyrie, rightly so, will be in attack mode because that's when he's at his best.
All right. Now I did want to go ahead and move on over to a player we talked about last week on this show when I came in and hosted. We talked about De'Aaron Fox and possible trade suitors for him. Well, we actually got a De'Aaron Fox trade. We got De'Aaron Fox going over to the Spurs. De'Aaron Fox and Jordan McLaughlin goes over to the Spurs. Now, he gets to go over there and play with Wemby. How do you feel about him being a Spur?
I think the Spurs, to me, the moves that they made might be one of the best moves right behind Luka going to the Lakers because they got De'Aaron Fox and they didn't give up any of their young talent. Stephen Castle's still there. Devin Vassell's still there. Like, they didn't give up anybody.
Nope.
And instantly you got Wemby a running mate, and you also got Wemby a guy that can be a closer in close games. De'Aaron Fox is one of the highest scoring fourth quarter scorers in the NBA. And I think it's a great fit too because De'Aaron Fox is still relatively young. He's 26, 27 years old. The Spurs gave up some picks, but look at their young assets, and they still have a ton of picks. Like,
yep.
I think the Spurs make a run at the play-in this year. They might come up short, but the De'Aaron Fox trade is really more about next season.
Let me get this real quick. $417 million, man.
No, Cottrell's 100% right.
He's right. He's right.
Luka's going to sign a deal that makes the Lakers feel comfortable that he's committed to them, but it's going to be short term, so he can turn around and sign a monster deal that Jeannie Buss and company, with no hesitation, will make that offer. You can book that. You can book that. I know his feelings are hurt, but he's I think he's the kind of competitor that when he sees how the Lakers roll out the red carpet, how they treat him, what they do around him, I think he'll be committed to stay there. I think he will.
Back to that De'Aaron Fox trade real quick. I get my wish. Zach LaVine is gone.
Oh, yeah, happy are you? Yeah, how happy are you?
Very, very happy. We got rid of him in that bad contract. Now, my issue, this was a salary dump for the Bulls.
Right.
And they got their own draft pick back, which I'm very happy about. They're going to need it because now the Bulls are in rebuilding mode. But for the Kings, you're bringing back Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. You're bringing that duo back together. Can that make them maybe a playoff contender?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think what it does, it's a Band-Aid move because as a scorer, I'm just talking about as a scorer, not his overall game.
Right.
Zach LaVine can score as well as De'Aaron Fox can. And as a shooter, he's a better shooter. Zach LaVine is you look at his shooting splits, he's one of those gifted players in the NBA, but he's also one of those players that you go, it just seems like he should be better, that he should have more impact on the game, and he doesn't. You put him DeRozan together with Sabonis, Keegan Murray, I think they'll make a run at the playoffs, but I'm looking at the Kings. It's such a Kings move because DeMar's 34-35, right? Correct? DeMar's not part of your future.
No.
He's not.
No.
And Zach LaVine, I believe, is got to be 28, 29. Is he part of your future? Like, the move, it reeked of the Kings. It's a Kings move, right? That's what they do.
Yep.
when they get a young talent and they build them up, they do something to make the young talent want to leave the Kings. And maybe it's just because it's the Kings. I don't know. But I looked at that trade. Yeah, that too. But I looked at that trade, and the first thing I thought was, well, the Spurs won for sure.
Yes.
I'm not going to say the Bulls lost because they got off that contract and they got their pick back. So I think they did fairly well. I think the team that came out of it the worst is the Kings. Like,
yeah.
Every time I look at a team and people try to sell their fans, I look at the team and go, are you built to compete for a title? No. Are the Kings a title contender? No. Were they and to be fair, were they a title contender with De'Aaron Fox? No. If everybody has a ceiling, De'Aaron Fox is a terrific player. But if he's your best player, you're not a title contender, flat out. And now you've got DeMar, you've got Zach LaVine. I like Sabonis, but if Sabonis now becomes the number one, if he's your best player, you're not a title contender. It's just a fact. So I think they put a Band-Aid over a situation where they don't think they need to rebuild. And I get it, right? Because if you're Sacramento, it's not like if you've got cap space, big name free agents go to Sacramento, because they don't.
Right, they don't.
If you're Sacramento, you have to get better through the draft or have the ability to make trades. And I get why they moved Fox. He pretty much had the advantage. He had the power in that situation. And they got back. I would say they got back in terms of the assets. They got back some good assets, but in terms of what's going to be on the court, I think they'll be pretty good. But again, if they make the playoffs, and I know they're a first round exit. At best, they're a first round exit. So, and then what are you looking at in the offseason if you're Sacramento? DeMar's 36. I just don't know their path forward. So the only team that came out looking good in that trade, Spurs.
Yeah, I think so too. And finally, another trade I did want to go over, and I can't believe we're talking about this. PJ Tucker.
My man.
The Tucker to the Jazz. Now, the Clippers get Drew Eubanks and Patty Mills. The Jazz get Mo Bamba, PJ Tucker, a second round pick. And the thing that always trips me out, cash considerations. They just never tell you how much cash is involved. Any thoughts about that trade? How you doing, man?
Hey, what's going on, Brandon?
Welcome, bro.
First of all, the Clippers and PJ Tucker, they had an arrangement. You stay away, and we'll find a way to get you up out of here. Like, he hadn't even bought out a roster. So, and I don't know what PJ Tucker has left. I mean, PJ Tucker's got to be up to 37, 38 years old himself.
Yeah.
So I don't know what he has left. Right. Patty Mills is a shooter. Shooters age well. So can he help the Clippers? Yeah, I think he does. I think it's a good trade for the Clippers. I think the Jazz are in full rebuild mode. So I think they're open for business. I actually will, because of the Luka move. I think a lot of teams are open for business. I think the rumors are serious that Phoenix is seriously considering moving Kevin Durant. I don't think that's a fluke. I think that's a real thing, because I think their feeling is if we can't get Jimmy Butler and make one run at it, as you are currently built, your roster construction, you're not a title contender. You know that. And like everybody else, as much as I love Kevin Durant, he's going to be 36.
There was a rumor.
It's going to be 37.
There was a rumor. I forgot where I saw it, where Dallas might make a play for him. I don't know what you got left, but
they don't have. Look, Phoenix,
they ain't got nothing left.
They might want to move him, but if you go off of what Dallas can offer you, you're just going to keep KD. You got to get something in return.
Yeah.
If they're going to move him, then they would look to move him to a team like Houston, who has a lot of assets, but Houston's not trying to break up their core.
Nope.
Or you go to Golden State. You send him back to the Warriors. You can get back a bigger trade, a bigger haul. You can get back Jonathan Kuminga. That's hilarious. All right, Will.
Oh my goodness.
But you can get back. The Warriors can put together a bigger package. And look, for the drama of it, Will, we're both big NBA guys.
Yes.
I'm here for KD going back to the Warriors. I thought if there's any other place
I'd be
other than
down for
Golden
that.
State that I could see him landing at for a storybook ending, and this team has more assets than any team in the NBA, it's Oklahoma City. They've got 1,000 picks,
They do. They
1,005
do.
picks.
They do. And Phoenix can use all of them.
Yes, they could. They could use all of them. And KD could go back, still be a star, but it's not his team now. It's Shay's team.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And as much as I like J-Dub, he struggled in the postseason. KD as your second, as your number 2, that would be storybook.
That would be. It really would be. Let me ask you this, Mo. Would there be, and you spoke about it earlier, untouchable players? What is your NBA untouchables list now?
Well,
or would it even be one with what you saw with Luka?
Well, with Luka, let me put it this way: if you're a superstar and you're heading towards 30 or the other side of 30, you're not safe. Luka was 25 and wasn't safe. I think the only guy in the NBA that you can say for sure is 100% safe is Wemby. He just got here. And we know the Spurs, we damn fools to trade. Like, we think we could do better without Victor. Like, if they say that, you know what I mean? Like, and you don't see them ever saying that. I think right now, I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is untouchable. I think Shai's untouchable. I think Joker untouchable. I think Giannis is untouchable. It's a short list, but I think those guys are all untouchable.
I think so too.
I love Jason Tatum. I'm a huge Jason Tatum fan, but I don't think he's untouchable.
Man, this has been a crazy weekend, Mo.
I don't think we're done. I do think I think there's gonna be at least one more big trade, and I hope it is KD, just because of the drama of it. Like, I love the soap opera of the NBA. You send KD back to Oklahoma, back to the Warriors. It's him, Steph, and Clay taking one more run, or him, Steph, and Draymond taking another run at it. Even though I don't think they're going to succeed, it will be dynamite. Would they not suddenly? Because right now, if you look at the Warriors, it's hard to watch them most nights. But if you add KD to that mix, they become must-see TV.
Oh yeah. Let me ask you about the All-Star Game snubs and one player in particular. Should Trae Young have been an All-Star?
I think he had a really good season. And the Hawks started off really strong. They've had some injuries. They've trailed off. I think Trae Young has a strong case why he should be an All-Star. But look at the All-Star team. Who you taking off that? Who are you removing? Right? You can tell me why he should be on, but who are you removing? Like, I guess the easiest person to pick on would be Darius Garland, but I'd be like, Darius Garland's the second best player on the team with the best record in your conference, on the team with the best record. I think Darius Garland is worthy. I think he's earned his spot.
I think so too.
When you're as good as Trae Young is, Will, if you're the best player on a team that's a sub 500 team, it's hard for you to make a case. Like, I've seen a lot of people make the case that LaMelo Ball should have been on the All-Star team, and I'm like, nah, man, if you don't make teammates better, and he doesn't, if you just put up numbers and everything you do on the court is more about you, and your team is a bad team, and your team is a lottery team, as talented as he is, he shouldn't be in the All-Star game. I look at a guy like Kate. That's what I'm talking about, LaMelo Ball.
Right.
Matter of fact, here's a better comparison. Look at LaMelo. Look at his team. Look at Cade Cunningham and what Cade Cunningham has done in Detroit. They won 14 games last year, Will. 14. I did a pre-NBA show and said Cade's mission this year is to bring the franchise back to respectability. Like, I wasn't even talking playoffs. I was just saying respectability. He's got them in the playoffs right now. He's got them in the hunt. You can see it on the floor when you watch Detroit. He makes his teammates better. He can get his, but he makes guys around him better. LaMelo hasn't gotten to that point yet. And I think that's one of the main reasons why he's not an All-Star.
How about Tyrese Maxey?
I'm a huge Maxey fan. When we talk about snubs, I think that's the obvious snub. If you wanted to tell me that Maxey should be on the team, I'm not going to argue with that. I think Tyrese Maxey is the most valuable assets the Sixers franchise has. He's one of my favorite players. He definitely should be on the team. And I know I just said, who are you going to move out? I don't know. Move somebody out, but put
Move
him
somebody
on.
out. He deserves to be there.
He deserves to be there. He was an all-star last year. What did he do this year, Will? He's even better this year than last year, and you reward him by snubbing him. So, no, I don't understand that at all.
Devin Booker?
I think D-Book's a perennial all-star, but if I'm going to be true to my logic, it's kind of hard for him. Like, we know him and KD are great players, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're both on a team that's sub 500, and I know there's been injuries for sure, both have been in and out of the lineup. By default, if you got to choose one, you're going to choose the guy that's been playing for 16, 17 years and is a walk-in Hall of Famer. You literally would have to choose between KD and Book, and KD got the nod.
How about Sabonis?
I sound like I'm a Sabonis. I'm not a Sabonis hater. I'm not. I think he's vastly overrated.
Wow.
He's just vastly overrated. I'm not a hater. He's overrated. He is a stat machine. If you're a analytics nerd, you love him. You love him until the playoffs when it matters, and watch him vanish, because that's what he'll do. I don't know what to say. The guy's a really good player, but here's the way I look at it. Can you build around him? Can he be the centerpiece of a team? The answer is no. No.
Last name I want to go over with you, Norman Powell.
I actually thought Norman Powell should have got more consideration. I do. I get it. He's not a big name in the league as far as a star, but he's been one of the best six men in the league for the past 4 or 5 years. A natural bucket getter. And it would have been a good story, because this might be Norman Powell's only shot to make an all-star team, right?
Yeah.
And he like, I felt like he was deserving of more consideration for that accolade. They went with Harden, and even though Norman Powell's having a career year for Norman Powell, I get why you went with Harden, because everything the Clippers do right offensively when they're right, it comes off of James Harden.
Yep.
So I get they're a middle of the road team. It's tough to have 2 all-stars on a middle of the road team. So I get that. But you talk about the snubs, the ones that stand out to me that bother me the most, probably Tyrese Maxey in the East and Norman Powell in the West.
Yeah. All right, I do want to go over to the 2025 WWE Royal Rumble. I know you watched it. What were some of your thoughts, some of your impressions about the Rumble, and did you think the winners were deserving?
So Charlotte Flair is one of the greatest competitors all in WWE history. She's picked up the mantle from her pops and has been every bit as good as he's been. She's one of my favorite performers, but she's been gone for the longest time because of an injury.
Yep.
And I think it's great that she comes in the Rumble and she puts on a good showing. But I think it's a tough pill to swallow for the other big stars that have been there all that time, that right off the injury, she punches her ticket by winning the Rumble. And I enjoyed the Women's Rumble. Don't get me wrong. I just thought that there was a lot of talent in that ring, Bianca Belair and others that were underutilized. I brought this up last night on Meaty Boys. I felt like outside of her early interest, you forgot Bianca was even in the ring. Like, she was in the ring and was a non-factor because they wanted to get Charlotte over so bad. I enjoyed the Rumble, but I felt like when it feels anticlimactic to me, it's not organic. And we know it's sports entertainment, but you got to bring us in and sell us on the story you're trying to tell. And I think most fans, they're not buying it, because they did boo her to a degree. And I thought, wow, they're booing Charlotte Flair. So if you're trying to bring her back as a face, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
The only way it's going to work is you bring her back as a heel, and she started to when she did that post interview about how she was deserving and she should. I mean, I think she made that choice right in mid interview. Like, yeah, let me just embrace the heel role. And again, I think she's a great performer, but I just thought it was so fast that they put her over that quick. Like, come on, man. Like, she's big enough. She's a big enough star wheel where she can be in a big match and it not be for a belt, if that makes any sense.
It does. It does. It does. She's one of those stars that doesn't need a title to get over.
That's all I was saying. Like,
Yeah.
she's big enough to where put her up against another big star and it's not for a belt. It's just about the two of them, some kind of grudge match or whatever. And I'm watching that. I'm buying into it. I just thought it was an opportunity to push some of your younger talent, some of the couple of young ladies from Next, TNA talents, and they just didn't do it.
It would have been kind of cool to me if Jordan Grace would have won it. Maybe that would have been
Grace
cool.
came in there and she had me fired up.
She wrecked shop, man. She wrecked shop. But the rumors that are going around, and this is what I disagree with. Yeah, I had an issue with Charlotte being thrusted into that role so quickly without having to work or earn it, so to speak. There's rumors out there saying she's going to be going up against Tiffany Stratton. I was sort of kind of hoping she would go against Rhea Ripley.
I wanted to see her and Rhea match up, but you know what? A matchup between her and Tiffy, that's intriguing. It's Tiffy time. That's an intriguing matchup. And here's the question in that. If she goes up against Tiff, is Charlotte Flair like John Cena, an all-time great, but the kind of all-time great that can be in a great match but lose it because you're putting the other one over? Do you know what I mean? Cena's done that. Yeah. I've lost count.
He's done a lot of times.
She's not been known to do that. And but it'd be a nice turn for her if they do get in the ring and she's willing to have a great match, but let the younger coming up star get over. I'd be intrigued to see that. And I hope something like that does happen because I think the WWE's done so well this past year or so. Keep the momentum up. Keep pushing some of your younger stars out there.
We saw the return of Alexa Bliss. What did you think about her return?
That was so cool. That was one of those moments. Me and Brett are watching. We both like, oh no! Like you were ready for certain surprises. I knew Trish Stratus was. I knew Trish was coming, and I still get excited because it's Trish Stratus. But when Alexa Bliss came, it blew the roof off the building. That was awesome, man. I loved it, and she got in there and she looked great. And I hope they keep it going and they keep pushing her and putting her out there because she's a great character. So that was one of my favorite. That was my favorite surprise of the Women's Rumble.
My only issue with that, she was trying to make a tribute to Bray Wyatt when she came out there. WWE cut that part. I hated that.
Yeah.
You should have let that girl do her thing when it came to Bray. But yeah, I enjoyed the Women's Rumble a lot. But I do agree with you. It should have been someone else who was, maybe a little bit more deserving of it to go in there and get that win. But it is what it is. We'll see how that works. What you think about the Men's Royal Rumble, and were you surprised by Jey Uso winning?
So the Men's Royal Rumble, to me, you can make a case it was the best match. It's a tie between the Men's Royal Rumble and Cody Rhodes and Kevin, because that was vicious. That was a vicious match.
Yeah.
The beauty of the Men's Royal Rumble, Will, is the very end. There's about 6 or 7 competitors in there, and it's like star power everywhere. CM Punk, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, Logan Paul, like the whole crew's in there. John Cena, the legend. And in that moment, me and Brett are talking, and I'm like, wow, look at all that star power. And the lowest man on the totem pole is actually Jey Uso. And I love Jey Uso. And it felt like Punk or Cena was gonna win. I just felt that. And WWE threw me a curveball. They threw me a Johnson.
They swerve when you zag.
Yeah, because especially at the end when it's Jay and Cena and they're going back and forth and they're on the apron and you're like, oh no, Cena's gonna F you Jay on the apron and walk. And don't get me wrong, I would have been good with it. I would have been good with it because you're talking about what Cena's done for the company and he's done his farewell tour.
Yes.
They threw us this amazing curveball. And Jey Uso, main event Jey Uso, one of my favorite wrestlers, won. And when it happened in that moment, we're both like, I think we both had that look that Bra had on his face when Undertaker's streak ended. We were like
Mhm.
that. We were like that. And I thought, is WWE about to give Jey a big push? That's amazing. That's amazing. And guess what? It works for me. I heard some people were disappointed, but I'm like, think about Seth Rollins, think about Punk and Roman Reigns. All three of them are so big, they can be in a main event and not have a belt on the line, and you're
Yes.
gonna be locked in because they're all that big. They all carry that much heat. Why not go a different way?
Oh,
I
yeah.
think you know what I mean. You keep teasing us with Jey can be a great one-on-one competitor, and I think he is. He's a great singles competitor. So push him forward. I don't know what that's. I don't know what that's about. Come on, Eric. Come on. It's early in the morning.
But
Appreciate you.
I love John Cena's press conference. Says he's going to be in an elimination chamber. Is 17 in his sights?
I think it's in his sights, but what I believe is going to happen is if it's going to be 17, somehow, some way, that last match maybe standing in his way should be Randy Orton, some kind of way, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the history that they had, they basically came up together. Like, to make a sports analogy, they're part of the same draft class.
Yes.
And so their careers have just gone down the same track. Orton he's got to be close to, what is he, around 15-time champion? So like he's got to be right there behind Cena. So the idea of Orton being the guy blocking you from getting to 17. Brett threw out something really entertaining last night. I want to hear how you feel about it. He said, what if for Cena to get the title shot, he had to go through Jacob Fatu? And so Brett's thinking was because it's Cena's Cena's world tour, and Cena's been a lot of things, but he's damn sure been about the company his whole career. Brett said it could go two ways. You can make it a great match where Cena finds a way to win, or you can make it one of those matches where Jacob Fatu just obliterates him and retires John Cena.
The thing and it would be believable because Jacob is a beast.
Right.
It's the beast.
So I like the build-up. The build-up is Cena wins a bunch of big matches leading up to that match, right?
Right.
And he has a moment or two in that match. He even gets off the FU, and then Jacob Fatu hops up. You know what I mean? Yep. I could see that. I think a more believable scenario, big picture with Cena is that he comes within a razor's edge of winning that 17th, but he didn't get it.
Yeah.
I think that's more believable. I think that's more believable. Like he's still a competitor, but you've seen him in the ring lately. He's not the athlete that he was. He's much older now.
Yeah.
So you can make it believable that he can make a match entertaining and come up close. But like I said, I know it's sports entertainment, but you got to make us buy into what you're selling with the story. The story doesn't work for me if you have Cena beating a Roman Reigns should Roman get the belt back.
Right.
It doesn't work for me even if you put him up against a Seth Rollins because they're at different stages of their career. But if somehow, some way he gets to, it's like one of those one-shot opportunities, why not?
Definitely got to make it believable.
Yeah, but that's the whole key. Like, they've been good with storytelling. I think you've got to tell a story that brings us, the fans along, and we go, I can see how that would happen. I can see how that would work. Like, for the longest, they had teased us the better part of 20 years that John Cena was going to have a heel turn. And I'm like, nope, John Cena's Captain America. He'll never have a heel turn.
No. Now, he says that it was in the works some years ago. But it never got, but they never went through with that. But he said he was prepared to do it. That would have been so interesting if you became a heel.
Yeah,
so interesting.
I would have been here for it. There was a moment, and you know the Cena history with his love affair with the fans, where they loved him. Remember when he first started, and he was rhyming, and he was young, and he was coming up, and then once he got put over, they couldn't stand him. They couldn't stand him. They
Yep.
would boo him all the time.
Yep.
They actually rooted against his opponents. And then as he got older, they loved him again.
Yep.
They re-loved him. You know what I'm saying? But when they were booing him, that should have been the time, and maybe that's what he's talking about, that he should have just gone full heel. Like if John Cena had gone heel, it would have been the biggest heel turn since Hulk Hogan became Hollywood Hogan. Like that.
Huge.
It would have been that. Right. It would have been that. And you know what? I think he would have been great as a heel.
Yep. I think so too. Now, Mo, I did want to go ahead and finish off the show with some NFL news. I want to talk about the Rams. The Rams looks like they're going to be trying to trade Cooper Kupp. A, who would you trade Cooper Kupp for? And B, if you do that trade, are you also holding on to Matthew Stafford? Two-part question.
So I think if they can move Cooper Kupp, I think they're just looking for some picks in return. Maybe, you're not going to get a first-round pick for I think Kupp's 31, 32. But maybe they're just looking for some assets that they could use in the draft. And B, what does it say for Stafford? Stafford still wants to play, and he's still one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. I don't think losing Cooper Kupp would be the decision that makes him want to not be on the Rams, because let's be honest, Cooper had become the number 2 behind Puka. Puka Nakuma's the number 1 option.
Yep. Amen to that.
Right. The question is, if you're the Rams, can you go in this offseason and get a credible, productive number 2 outside of Cooper to put alongside Puka, right? That's really, you got to sell Stafford on, well, this is what we're going to add to you know what I mean, weapons wise, because every year the Rams get off to a slow start, and then every year the second half of the season they're one of the best teams in football, and they do it every year, and they just kind of come up short in the postseason. But if you're the Rams, unless they know something that I don't know, you do everything in your power to keep Matthew Stafford, because he's still playing at an elite level.
He is. Now, let me ask you this. I just got this question on my handy dandy cell phone here. Would you trade Cooper Kupp for George Pickens?
I don't know. That's, you know what? I don't know, because
I don't know if I do that one.
I'm only saying this from the standpoint that this isn't Cooper Kupp, one of the 3 best receivers in football. This is Cooper Kupp, the veteran who's still a good football player, but
yes,
he's not a number 1 anymore. So no. I don't think, one, he's not an upgrade talent-wise, and 2, he's much older than Pickens. So
yes,
if I'm going to trade Pickens, I'm going to need somebody like younger than that. So if I'm the Steelers, I'm doing a lot of things. I'm not doing that.
It's just fact that Pickens is such a head case, but no deny the talent is there. There's no denying that from Pickens. No denying. But he's such a head case. Compliments to Mike Tomlin for having to deal with that.
Yeah. So I agree with you about his talent, but I don't think he's a number 1.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's a number 1. I think that he's very, very talented, but I think he's just the best. He's the best receiver on that roster. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, he's not a number 1. It's not like if he went to the Dolphins, we'd be like, I don't know who's better, him or Tyreek Hill. Like, you know who's better.
Yep.
He's I don't even know that he's better than Jalen Waddle.
I was about to ask you that. Yep.
So I think he's a good talent. He's an explosive talent, but I don't think he's a number 1. And he's certainly, the way he behaves, he's not a professional. Like, if I'm Mike Tomlin, if I am the GM, I'm not invested in you if you can't present yourself a certain way. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, buy into being a professional, buy into doing what we need to do and be part of the team, as opposed to complaining and whining. And it's funny I say that, because I know a lot of people are going to go, well, come on, Mo, aren't most great wide receiver diva? Right. We were just talking about Tyreek Hill. Remember his last press conference with the Dolphins talking about, I don't know, I might be out of here. I get it. But Tyreek Hill is actually one of the best receivers in football.
He is.
He's a perennial all-pro. We don't say that about Pickens. He hasn't done anything yet to get that kind of recognition.
That kind of love.
That kind of love. I like even better. Look, the Steelers need to solve a more immediate issue before we talk about wide receiver. Get a quarterback, man. Who's your quarterback? First find out who your quarterback is, then find out who they're gonna be throwing the football to.
Yep. All right. Let me ask you this too. There was a story that came out yesterday that Myles Garrett has requested a trade from the Browns. Where are you sending Myles Garrett?
I'll send him anywhere where I can get the biggest haul. I would think that a team that's always open for business would be the Raiders. I'm looking at the Raiders. I'm looking at anybody who has a lot of assets that can send something back my way. And if you're Cleveland, aren't you kind of in a semi-rebuild yourself?
You are.
Like, you don't have a quarterback either. You're now, mind you, you are stuck with a guy who has one of the biggest contracts in football, but he's not going to be your starting quarterback. He's just going to be the highest paid backup in NFL history.
And if you listen to the reports on his end, there's a chance he might end up losing that bag because he went through surgery and was supposed to be in a walking boot, but he was seen on video with his girlfriend dancing without the walking boot. So we see if that's a breach of contract. I wouldn't want to be a lawyer in that case, but we'll see if that's breach of contract. Maybe Cleveland can get out of it. But you do have Jameis Winston there, but we all know Jameis ain't the guy.
No. And from what I've seen of Jameis at the Super Bowl, I think Jameis is already starting his next career. Jameis is trying to have his own show, and I'll watch it. I'm here for it.
I'm down for it.
He is entertaining.
I'm down for it. Eating W's and everything.
He's entertaining as anybody. So I think Jameis is already looking for his next career. I think the Browns are a franchise that are in disarray. I like franchises that they can admit when they're wrong, and it's finally time to clean house. Your Saints did something that you wanted them to do for the longest time, right? And that's, to me, that's a big start, right?
Huge start to get rid of Mickey Loomis.
Yes,
huge start.
That's a huge start. And I think, yes, they have they need to rechange their culture, no question about it. But that's a good start, getting rid of Mickey Loomis. That is a huge start on the upswing. Yes. So I think people recognize that going forward. Now it's about what the scouting team, what the new GM in place does in terms of bringing in young talent. So I think they made a big move. The question I have for the Saints, though, I look at your wideouts. You've got some talented wideouts. You still got Alvin Kamara. There's not a lack of talent at your skill position. You just have to decide on, are you committed to Carr? Are you going to draft the next guy and use Carr as your bridge quarterback?
If it was me, Carr would be the most expensive backup in the league, and I would go with Spencer Rattler. A, he's younger, and B, I want to see what you have with him. If it was me, I'm not a David Carr guy. He's a middle of the road quarterback. If you look at quarterbacks 1 through 20, he had 15. So I just don't think he's very good. I will go with Rattler, see what you got with him, and have Jake Hayner back him up. Now it looks like offensive coordinator from the Philadelphia Eagles is going to become head coach. My question for you on that end: do you think he's a lame duck coach, or would he get an actual chance to coach that team?
I think he does get an actual chance to coach the team. I think he does. Especially, remember, if the Eagles go ahead, if the Eagles were to win the Super Bowl, that just gives him a little bit more standing, right? That gives him a little bit. He comes in there with a little bit more power. I think a lot of teams now are looking for those young offensive coordinators, or at least those offensive coordinators who scheme in ways that that they know how to create mismatches, and they put their offensive players in the best position to succeed.
Right.
Johnson for Detroit. Well, he's not with Detroit now, but that's why he got his job in Chicago, because
Mm-hmm.
he's a great offensive schemer, but he's also a great quarterback whisperer. So he is exactly what Caleb Williams needs. So
Yep.
I think the league is leaning that way. The league does that, right? Like there was a time when the league wanted to make defensive coordinators head coaches, but we're in an era now where more times than not, because of the way the league is, it's the offensive coordinators that are getting the head coaching jobs most times. Now, Aaron Glenn just got hired as the head coach of the Jets, but what I'll say about this is Aaron Glenn's a smart guy.
He is.
And I'm going to tell you he's a smart guy because the first thing he's going to do is he's going to get the offensive coordinator he wants, and then he's going to let him do his thing, right? That's a good head coach. You get your offensive coordinator and you let him design and call the plays as he sees fits. So yeah, I'm excited. I think the league does this. Although the one hire that confuses me, and I'm sure it confuses you, Dallas's hire kind of baffled me. But is it surprising, or is it typical Jerry Jones? Like, I just need somebody that I can boss around and run things anyway. Like I don't understand what they're doing, but if you're a Dallas Cowboy fan, I don't know the direction of your franchise. If you're a Dallas Cowboy hater, and there's tons of those, you're probably loving it.
No, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I admit I'm a Dallas Cowboy hater. I admit that. I admit that straight up. Straight up. Straight up.
Hey, what's going on, man? Appreciate you dropping through.
How you doing, bro? But yeah, we got a few minutes left. Go ahead and close us out, Mo.
Hey, thank you guys so much for joining Will and I. Make sure you check out all the great content we have at Wire to Wire Network. Wire to Wire Network, we appreciate you.
All right, you guys, that's going to do it for us here on the morning show. For myself and Mo, I want to say thank you for everybody coming through. Thank you for everybody in the chat. Appreciate you guys. And we will see you again tomorrow morning, bright and early, 9 p.m. Eastern, for the morning show. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good day.